Hey everyone, welcome back to Endless Money Pits. This is a 2008 Yamaha XT250, and today I'll show you how to remove, inspect, lubricate, and reinstall the swing arm. Yamaha recommends completing this maintenance every 3,000 miles or once every 6 months, whichever comes first. I know most people won't do it that often, if ever, but it really should be done on some sort of regular basis, especially if you ever ride through water deep enough to submerge the swing arm. This bike was purchased in rough condition, and I'm betting the swing arm hasn't been off in a very long time, so it should be interesting to see what condition it's in. The process takes some time, but it's not too difficult, so let's get to it. Here are the tools that I used for this job. Impact wrench, plastic mallet, torque wrench, socket wrench, a couple socket extensions, universal socket joint, 19mm socket, two 17mm sockets, 14mm socket, 10mm socket, 22mm wrench, 17mm wrench, 14mm wrench, flathead screwdriver, and a tape measure. For this job I also needed rags, a towel, shop towels, a couple bungee cords, wood blocks, safety glasses, brake cleaner, rubber gloves, padded gloves, magnetic bowl, air compressor, a light, a stool, waterproof grease, and a motorcycle stand that allows the swing arm to hang freely. There are links in the description for everything I used. I'll start by putting the bike on a sturdy center stand. I used a couple wood blocks to support the rear wheel as I removed the axle. If you need a wrench to keep the other end from spinning, it's a 22mm. The brake caliper is also secured by the axle, so I used a bungee cord to support it. Detach the brake line from the swing arm and move the caliper out of the way. There's one 10mm bolt securing the brake line to the swing arm. Before we go any further, it's important to check the up, down, and side-to-side free play of the swing arm. If the tip of the swing arm moves more than 1mm in any direction, double check that the pivot shaft nut is correctly torqued to 58 foot-pounds. If it's still out of spec, or if the vertical movement is not smooth, pay special attention to the spacers, bearings, washers, and dust covers as we go, replacing any worn or damaged parts as necessary. This one seems okay side to side, but the up-down free play is probably 3 to 5 times what it should be. Next, I'll remove the connecting arms for the rear suspension. The bolts are dry and rough, showing some signs of corrosion. Remove all 4 dust covers and the 2 cylindrical spacers. The last bolt head is still a 17mm, but the nut on the back is a 14. Remove the spacer and dust covers. If you want to go the extra mile like I probably should have, you can remove the last bolts up here and pull out this whole piece. Now the pivot shaft can be removed, releasing the swing arm from the frame. Roll the pivot shaft on a flat surface to check for bends, and replace it if it's not straight. Do not try to straighten the shaft if it's bent. I laid out all the hardware I removed to be cleaned and inspected. Some parts are badly rusted, and a couple of the dust covers are damaged, so I'll have to order some new parts, but these ones will be going back in temporarily. Any worn, damaged, or pitted parts should be replaced. I realized later that I shouldn't have used brake cleaner on the rubber dust seals because it can dry them out, but I will be replacing them soon. I cleaned the points of contact on the bike and the swing arm. Then I gave the entire swing arm a quick cleaning so I could inspect it for cracks, bends, and general damage. If there's any significant damage to the swing arm, it should be replaced entirely. This rubber chain slider has worn through and the chain has been rubbing on the swing arm. The rubber can be replaced, but if the damage were much worse, I'd recommend replacing the swing arm too. These metal covers come off too, but the cylindrical spacer seems stuck inside, so I decided to leave it alone for now since I'll still be able to clean it and lubricate the shaft that goes through it. Once all the parts are completely dry, we can apply some fresh lubricant.
That one should be replaced. Done.
When installing the swing arm, take your time getting it lined up and slide the pivot shaft through from the right side. Install the pivot shaft nut and torque it to 58 foot-pounds. To make reconnecting the suspension easier, I supported the swing arm with another bungee cord. Reinstall the lower shock as shown and torque the nut to 29 foot-pounds. Reinstall the connecting arms as shown, and torque the nuts to 43 foot-pounds. Usually you would want to torque the nut side, but on this bolt my torque wrench only fit on this side. Slide the brake line into place and secure it with the 10mm bolt. Before reinstalling the wheel, I'll clean the collars. I'll also spend some time cleaning and re-greasing the inside of the hub. Make sure the dust seals are fully in place so you don't dissolve the grease inside the wheel bearings, and clean off any contaminants that get onto the brake disc. I put on some safety glasses and used an air compressor to quickly evaporate the brake cleaner. The bigger collar goes on the sprocket side, and the smaller one goes on the brake side. You might have noticed I replaced the brake caliper while you weren't looking. Stay tuned for that video coming soon. If the brake disc won't fit between the pads, you might need to pry them apart slightly. Install the axle with chain tensioner as shown, and slip the chain over the rear sprocket while making sure it hasn't come off the front sprocket. Remove any grease from the axle threads before installing the other chain tensioner and washer, and loosely install the nut. To keep the wheel in alignment while adjusting the chain, turn the chain tensioners equally so that the numbers match until the chain slack is between 40 and 45 millimeters, measured at the lower portion of the chain halfway between the sprockets.
There we go.
That's 1.5 inches of play. It should be 1.57 to 1.77 inches. I think that was 40 millimeters to 45 millimeters. But we're at the end of the adjuster here. So we're gonna need a new chain, and the sprockets are worn out too. I don't know about the front one, but the back one is. So check back for that video in the not too distant future. When the chain slack is within spec, torque the axle nut to 62 foot-pounds. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe for more of the best DIY videos on the internet. And until next time, just keep throwing money at it. Wow.